thank God one of the characters that has been, relatively known, I think it's a slightly above niche, is no longer in the hands of Marvel. Now, I want to be clear. I don't want to make this seem like it's, well, Marvel got outbid or something like that. I think it's just Marvel looking at the bottom line and was probably like, yeah, we thought this was going to make us money, more money than what it had been, and it's just not worth renewing our deal or license. Maybe they were making money, but it wasn't as much. But it was, to all accounts and all reports, Marvel made the decision not to renew it. Now, again, that in itself could be for various reasons. Were the owners of this property saying the price has gone up? Or was it just them saying, look, we're not doing this anymore? It could be either or. But the publishing rights to Conan, the Barbarian, has now been taken over by Titan Comics. Now, Titan Comics, I'm not about to sit up here and present them as, anti, like, weird, whatever the mainstream is doing. I don't really know enough about where they're at because I don't follow a lot of the books. Titan tends to publish a lot of, like, not weird or obscure. They get a lot of mainstream stuff, random like franchises that they'll do a comic book based off of. They do like Blade Runner. They've done a lot of stuff. Let me actually go and pull some of their stuff up. I know they did some Obi-Wan thing as well. I don't know if it was a graphic novel or what, because Marvel has done most of them. But yeah, they got like Cowboy Bebop, Minions. They do have still some Star Wars stuff, Doctor Who. So they do stuff like, they had Blade Runner, yeah. So they have done some of that stuff. So yeah, it's just another publishing brand. You're probably going to get much of the same thing that you got from Marvel. It's just now under a different, not maybe much of the same, but it's under a different property now. And as indicative here, and reading this from CBR, the Hollywood Reporter, Titan Comics has nabbed the publishing rights to Conan the Barbarian. The rights previously belonged to Marvel Comics, who acquired the rights in 2018 and then started Conan Barbarian run in 2019. He also was in, of course, Savage Avengers, which we covered a lot of back when I did waste a lot of money buying Marvel, or obtaining, let's say that, Marvel Comics, physical Marvel Comics, back in The Gap. Which was only 3 years ago. But you get what it is that I'm saying. For 3-4 years ago, he appeared there. Savage Adventure was all right for what it was. I think, Jerry Duggan, did he do that? Was it him that did Savage Adventures, if I'm not mistaken? It was all right. Of course, he was a perfect fit to be in that and on that team for sure. And they did a relatively decent job, I guess, on that book for all of what it was worth. We covered it. We gave it praise and whatnot. But I have not. I know they came out with something. What was that other book? It was right before I left. Marvel came out with some other book that had Conan. I don't know if it was. I don't think it might have been his run. It might have been that actual 2019 run that I'm thinking of. But it's not like they were knocking it out the park or killing it or making a lot of money anyway. So they had a few years. Clearly, they tried to make a little money off of it. Wasn't making a lot of money, and they were like, all right, whatever. So that says in May, Marvel decided not to renew the rights to the property with Conan Properties International, which is owned by Heroic Signatures. Titan Comics deal with Heroic Signatures covers graphic novels and remastered archives. The publisher will begin putting out a new Conan run in May of 2023. So next year you can expect a new Conan run that will be published by Titan, followed by a handful of miniseries starring the other recognizable characters, including Solomon Kane and Dark Agnes. Okay, we have been working with Titan for a year on the pro side and established a good foundation for expanding our business together. Heroic Signatures President Frederick Malmberg, when it became, wait. I thought Conan was owned by, who else am I thinking? I'm thinking of something else. I thought, unless Heroic Signatures is owned by them, but I thought like Tencent owned Conan. I mean, I could be wrong. Who am I thinking of that they own somebody weird? So it's like it's basically again. I mean, that would mean effectively it's Chinese owned. I don't know who I'm thinking of, but I thought it was Conan. I guess not. No, anyway, but whoever owns Heroic Signatures owns obviously Conan Properties International. Now, again, are they getting a return? That's how a lot of this stuff is nowadays, where you have a mega corporation and it's like these mini corps. It's like this corporation is the big umbrella, but under that you have this corp which owns a property, and then that corp owns another property which also license out the product. So yeah. So some people are saying this does. I don't know. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's a part of Conan or something. But they're saying Heroic Signature, so maybe it is one of those instances where, and I'll look this up maybe after the fact, not while I'm doing the segment here, but maybe it's like a Tencent owns Heroic Signatures, who owns Conan. You know, it may be one of those situations or what have you. Their expertise in publishing is stellar, and we couldn't be more excited to launch a barbarian horde of titles like Conan, Solomon Kane. Again, I just mentioned all of that. And yeah, we know Robert E. Howard, of course, created it, and that was in the 70s, blah, blah, blah. So now Marvel, I guess they're going to be closing in this series. Yes, Savage. The series is currently releasing the second volume of Savage Avengers, issue 3. Oh, so they rebooted Savage Avengers? Wait a minute, let me read that. Along with new solo comics, Conan stars in Marvel Savage Avengers series that launched in 2019. This series is currently releasing its second volume. Yeah, so they rebooted Savage Avengers in that short a time. Oh my God, man. Marvel, those guys have no idea what they're doing over there. So apparently because I was reading I think that was the first volume at the time of Savage Avengers. So yeah, if they're only on number 3, then they would have had to re-release it. So they, in that short period of time, they rebooted a team that they had just started. Like, God damn, man, Marvel and their reboots, man. And this is why it's almost impossible to follow anything it is they do. But remember, they don't care about readers anymore. They're not really doing these stories for readers anymore. It's more of like, hey, we're giving stories to people who want to impress their peers, okay? And in impressing their peers, they'll give it to whoever they want to give the story to. And that seems to be like at the top of what their priorities are. It's not necessarily making it easier for book readers. And I think this is also part of kind of the downfall of the modern era of comics right now, in that it's almost impossible to keep up between all of these reboots and different universe and different realities and different versions of the comics. I know people that don't really keep up with it think multiverses and all that stuff is the coolest thing ever, but they don't look at it from the investment point or the investment standpoint of someone that's a regular reader, or even someone that wants to get into it. You've made it impossible for them to understand where their starting point is. It doesn't start on issue 1. There's 17 issue 1s because this character story's been rebooted 17 times. And while he has that book, he has 17 other books like Spider-Man. Y'all remember when I talked about Marvel and Spider-Man during that time? I think during that time they had probably more Spider-Man books than they had ever had at one time that were all released. Or books that had Spider people in them. Between, you had obviously the Amazing Spider-Man, you had that Spider-Man the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. You had Spider-Man Life Story at the time, which aged him basically in like 10-year or increments or something like that. You had all these Spider-Verse stories. Miles had his own stuff, which was called Miles Morales Spider-Man. Silk was appearing in New Agents of Atlas. There were like 17 at the same time. And then you had like, again, Doc Ock Spider-Man or whatever. What would they call it? Superior Spider-Man or whatever it was. And then you had that Spider-Man that was a limited series, but it was set like before the Secret Wars or whatever, where he was basically Venom or what have you. It was It was a mess, man. It was just so many spider stories, and they were all coming out at the same time. If you go watch my old video, they were all, I know this is a side point from this main story about Conan, but if you go to my old video, I like had all of them. Like, I'm like, all of these books, these aren't books over like a 20-year period. It was a book. It was those books had been released during the same period, and it was like 17 of them or something like that. Oh man, I can imagine being so overwhelmed if you wanted to get into this stuff because this company doesn't care about it and they don't care to make it. It's not even about holding the reader's hands. It's like, golly, give them something that's coherent, and it's simply not. It's 17 versions of the same character, and then that story has been rebooted. So even though you're reading this isn't the first volume. This is the fourth volume of this. It's just nuts. So it's actually not surprising that Savage Avengers now has been rebooted, but that won't last for that long because it looks like going into the end of the year, Marvel's rights will be up for Conan. Doesn't seem to be, because with a company with that much money, they would have for sure reinvested in that if it was making them enough money. But clearly having the rights to Conan just wasn't worth it. And now you'll see what Titan is going to do with it. You just listened to a clip from my podcast, For Canon's Sake, which is live throughout the week at 12 p.m. Central on youtube.com/YoungRipper59 and odyssey.com/@YoungRipper59. Be sure to check out my website, ericdjuly.com, so you can stay up to date with everything it is that I'm doing. You can also become a member and get access to a bunch of cool perks and exclusive content, which includes a social media hub where you can interact with myself and other members. It even has an app that you can get, which is now live in the Google and Apple stores.